income to fund that same life insurance policy, but we're going to split it up. Instead of doing it all inside the trust, we're going to do it in your name so you maintain full control, full access, and if you ever want to cancel this and get your money back, so do it. This scenario, if I want to cancel and get my money back, you're screwed. I'm not saying you can't, but you've had a lot of tax issues and refiling if you got to pull money back into your estate. Okay? In this case, I buy the life insurance policy outside the estate. The income here, if I got to pay on my $1 million, that 50,000 GIB comes to life insurance, it's going to be guaranteed to be funded. Here's the downside. You got to file a crummy letter every single year on that gift. And those of you that aren't familiar with a crummy letter, more or less your kids have to sign off that said, I'm giving it. In other words, my kids are saying, I don't want the 50,000, put it in the life insurance policy. Right. They're in essence disclaiming the money so that they get the $3.2 million versus 50 grand today. Okay? And legally they have to do it. Here's typically the problem with crummy letters. The first year, like we set up estate planning today, the kids go, okay, that sounds great, everything's good, I get it. They start signing every year. The first 3-4 years, they sign them. Then what happens?
They get a pinch.
Hey, they get a pinch. Somebody's on vacation, the letters were supposed to be signed, and all of a sudden 3 or 4 years go by and they completely have forgotten to do the crummy letters. Or they change attorneys. It's every year until you pass. Okay, just a side note. But the people you're talking to are going to get that. And the other nice thing is any excess income over that 50 grand, who gets to enjoy that? You do. So I used to run with this idea all the time, and I kept hitting head walls going, guys like, well, I'm only worth $10 million, Bill. I can't carve out 10% of my money just so my kids are comfortable when I die. And so we came back and said, what if we just did this? And use the same concept, but split the money up. Now, we get to the second thing is, then we got health concerns, right? Now we got somebody with dementia.
Real quick, life insurance is the father's?
What's that?
Life insurance is still under the father?
No, this is outside, this is still inside a trust.
Life insurance.
Yeah, so we're still buying that in an ILA, okay, irrevocable life insurance
If
trust.
still need to sign crummy, wouldn't the trustee?
The trustee, yeah, the trustee is the one that's handling all
So
this.
you can get rid of the crummy letters then if it's just a trustee signing.
Well, no, because if you're gifting it out of your estate and you're not using your unified credit, then the kids have to do you have to do the crummy letter. And the guys you're dealing with should know all this. Okay, what you want to do is deliver the concept and say, why the VA is because I'm the only entity you have that can guarantee that can never run out. What if you do a second to die policy and mom lives to 103? This thing could, guess what, this could go to zero. That plan stays funded. You can't do that in a managed account. You can't do that in a municipal bond. And I literally had a conversation with a client the other day on this exact same strategy, and he's like, well, what if I just bought 30-year municipal bonds at 4%? And I said, that's a great strategy. A, you can't find that paper today. B, you're 62 years old. That takes you to 92. What if Helen lives to 100? What if your life's, and this is funny, so they were actually in the car driving. I go, what if your wife lives to 100? I don't know how much she heard of this conversation. He's like, I don't see that happening. And I said, I understand that. My question is, what if she does? And that's the answer. Is you don't know. Have you ever met anybody that was 100 years old? Ask them this one question. I started doing this when I get in some of the branches. I'm like, any of you guys have a client? And they all seem to have at least somebody that's 100 years old. Ask them this. When did you retire? Most of them will say 62 to 65. Did you imagine at 62 or 65 when you retired that you would live to 100? Every one of them, 100% of the time, will say, I had no idea, I had no dream. There's no way I imagined myself living this long. And if I did, like George Burns, I would have taken much better care of myself. Now, to answer your question about dementia, that's why you always want to do a second to die. We had a case fund about 2 years ago. Dad was in horrible health. I mean, this dude's like 1 foot on the banana peel scenario. We did a $2.7 million face amount policy using I for Life to fund it, and it went through without a hitch because second to die is based on, they don't care when the first person dies. The question is, what about dad? So Mom might be in bad health or dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that. You want to have those policies to go second to die. Here's the other challenge. Let's say dad's already passed, mom has dementia. The life insurance policy ain't going to happen. Right? So the next question is, does it mean we can't do this? No, it just means we're not going to have the leverage of the life insurance policy. You could still take your $1 million, put it in the trust. Now I got a case I'm working on this month right now. Same thing. We move that money over to the trust. Now what? Well, do you want to give the money to the kids right now? No, that's why you put it in the trust. When do you want to get the kids to get the money? When mom or dad dies. That's why you have the trust. Then the trust dissolves. The benefit is you don't even have to turn on Eye for Life now, unless you want to have a gifting strategy now while you're alive so the kids can be enjoying the money. Right? Then you turn on Eye for Life, funnel the money out. When the mom or dad passes, the trust dissolves. Guess who you make the annuitant on? The kids. So all of a sudden, Aaron, your dad passes, right? The trust dissolves. What happens to that annuity? Who's the beneficiary now? You are. Who becomes the new owner? You are. You become new owner. You rename a new beneficiary, right? Your daughter becomes the new Benny, and you got an income stream as you enter in retirement from dad's trust he set up.
With the new for later, we can now use the for later.
Now for later, we can do the guaranteed growth and do that.
Right.
It's beautiful, man.
Hey,
My
one
carrots,
thing,
nothing.
I'm gonna ask Dan to put this on. We have that V network now, or Vi, how do you say that? V.
Just kidding, Mike.
So
Just
I am
joking.
gonna ask Dan to put these, I'm gonna actually come to, Michael and I are gonna come to a couple of you and ask you to do certain presentations. And I think this would be good, in the interest of time.
Yeah, in the interest of, but going back, Rob, to your question, this is how I do that meeting. 30 minutes later. But if you know how to do
Did you
that,
not get enough stage time at this meeting?
I have what,
That was awesome.
5 minutes.
And the first pitch.
If you can do that meeting, first of all, if I had a group of, you ever have these regional meetings where you've got, 5 other wholesalers, everybody's got 30 minutes or 20 minutes, and you're usually last. So instead of, can you cut it down? Can you cut it down? You got 5 minutes. Everybody else went over, right? I said, listen, I'm going to show you one way I can improve. Not every advisor is going to have a client that can do a lot of these, but a lot of advisors will have one. And this is the question a lot of times I'll ask is, who's your biggest client and tell me about it? They can tell you everything about it. So, okay, well, here's your biggest risk. Matt, what happens if that client died today? What's the likelihood that that money could leave? And more importantly, what are you doing to prevent it from ever leaving? I'm going to show you a strategy that not only will help you generate a ton of revenue today, but will endear those children to you, his kids or grandkids or whoever that money is entitled to go to when he passes or she passes. And I'm going to make sure those clients never leave you. Because if you show that strategy to the beneficiary, dude, you'll never lose that relationship. Yeah, and you can take it right into dynasty. You can take it a bunch of different ways. Yeah.
And these are the things that we talked about, the divisionals